All right, how is everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? What I'm going to call this segment is not all relationships are meant to last. So I don't want to get repetitive here, but I got to mention my program, obviously, and that's Mastering Self-Confidence. So if you get a chance, check out my masteringselfconfidence.com page. If you're interested in building your confidence or if you need some advice regarding fashion, fitness, hygiene, I also help men try to find the woman or women of their dreams. Oh my goodness. So we got that out of the way. I hate plugging and market. I hate that shit. And then I get yelled at, nobody, you got to do it. All right, whatever. That's out of the way. But back to relationships. So what I get into my program, one of the things I get into is men, especially when meeting women, they have to learn how to maneuver their way through women to find the right one. And I definitely don't want men to be in a position where they end up with someone, because a lot of men usually fall into a category where they like who likes them, right? They don't a lot of times know how to date a lot of women. I think they're afraid that they're going to be called a player, or they don't just want to hang out with a bunch of different women or make friendships or build relationships with women without sleeping with them. I don't know why they're afraid to do that. It boggles my mind, because my whole program is not about being a pickup artist, even though you could use it for that. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about meeting a lot of different women, becoming friends, not sleeping with them, and building relationships and friendships with them and weeding out the good from the bad. And I call it like turning pages from a magazine. It's kind of like you got to keep turning a page. It'd be like, this goes for women too. You got to go through men. Same way, keep turning the page till you get to the article or the man you think is right for you. But here's the thing. Back to relationships. My girlfriend's going to be like, this guy's crazy. And this has nothing to do with my relationship now. But not all relationships are meant to last. And I think what happens with men and women, I don't care what age it is. I don't care if you're 18 and you're in high school, sweetheart shit, college, in your 20s, whatever. Now, if you're maybe 80 years old, that's different. You're getting remarried. You don't have a lot of time to go. But sometimes you really got to be honest to say, just because I'm dating this person now or for a while doesn't necessarily mean I have to eventually get engaged, get married, have children with this person, and it's going to last 50, 60, 70 years. I'm not saying that it won't, but the odds of that are fucking really, it's really hard to pull that off nowadays, especially now. It's not the 1800s, 1900s. It's a different century. It's a different era. The last 20 years, especially with technology, has changed the game. You can meet people in so many different ways. It's not bullshitty where you either, like the old days, somebody had to introduce you to somebody, you had to be in your village or someone local, or you had an arranged marriage. Even as time went on, even in the, whatever, the 70s, 80s, 90s and shit, the way you met people, you'd meet them at a bar or at a club or in high school or in college, and you only were able to meet whoever was kind of near you to a certain degree, right? Whoever, again, was local. Now, you could find somebody that has something in common with you in Australia, hypothetically, if I'm in the United States. Or you could find somebody anywhere. You can really, with social media and everything, really find people that have a lot more in common with you. And I always talk about you got to put yourself at the right place at the right time. And you got to know what type of women you like. Most men, they have an idea of what they like. They're just afraid to go after it. So hypothetically, I use that. If you like Latino girls, you go to areas that have a lot of Latino girls. You could go to clubs, you could go to bars, restaurants, whatever the case may be. You can go online. If you like black girls, same concept. You like white girls, corporate, same concept. But here's the thing again, regarding relationships. Have realistic expectations. Even if you're dating somebody for like 6, 8 months, a year or two, and you really don't feel like this is the right person for you, I think you have to be honest with yourself, because I think a lot of people think they've wasted, like, say, a year or 2 years. This goes for men and women. You're like, God, you know what I mean? I've already invested 2 years. Well, if you're only 25 years old, 2 years is nothing compared if you got to spend the next 50 years with this person. Do you really, if you think about it? And I think sometimes when it comes to dating or being with somebody, we're not always honest and genuine with ourselves. We're like, you know what? This is a person and that I really love, and I like being with her. But she's definitely not what I may want to spend the rest of my life with. And I think a lot of women, too, get caught up where their identity gets wrapped up with this man after a year or two. And say they want to get married. And I don't think men a lot of times, not all men, but men eventually do want to get married. But I really, from what I've seen over my entire life, it's not as much of a rush as it is for women. I think women also have a biological clock. Is that what they call it? I forgot. I lose track of my mind sometimes. But they have where they want to have children at a certain age, which is understandable. Men don't have that, I think. Some do. I actually did. I want to have kids younger, so I shouldn't say that. But I'm saying in this day and age, it seems like everybody's waiting a little longer, but especially men will wait. It seems like a lot longer. Women, I think, for the most part, still want to have children at a certain age. Well, whatever that age is, they have it in their mind. But if they date somebody for, say, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever the case may be, and they don't think that's the one, or they kind of do, they're, hot and cold with it, they won't break it off, I think, a lot of times because they're afraid to say, oh, shit, I got to start all over. I got to meet somebody else, right? That's kind of how they're thinking. But they know deep down inside, this probably is not going to work out as, long term. And when you go to marriage again, which is basically you're signing a contract for life. That's for life. Nothing's for life. If you brought a home or no contract in the world is for life. If you think about that, what would you sign anything to say it would be for like it's for life? Even your own friendships, let's say. I've had a lot of close friends. I hang out with some of my friends from first grade. Wonderful. One was in kindergarten even. One's kindergarten, one's first grade. Tons. But I wasn't with him every single day of my life. I didn't revolve my life around him. So when people are like, well, you have lifelong friends, it's the same situation. That doesn't make any sense. I didn't have to sign a lifetime contract with my buddy at 18 years old to say we're going to be friends forever. And the reality is, if you look at a lot of your friends' relationships, high school you have a certain clique, and a lot of times you go to college with them, and then college, you go on your own way, but you always still have friends, but you meet other friends along the way. Then if you have kids, you kind of become friends with your kids, their friends, and so on. Right? There's always kind of new people most likely coming in and out of your life. That goes for work as well. And a lot of those relationships come and go, but they don't end badly. And it doesn't, you can even they may move out of the state or move out of the country, or you just kind of fall out of touch, right? Somebody may get divorced, so then they're gone, or you know what I mean? Sometimes people choose sides, whatever the case may be. But when you're in those situations, you're not even looking at something having to last forever. You just enjoy it for the moment. I think what men and women need to do is basically the same thing. Putting unrealistic numbers and days and years and weeks or whatever the hell you want to say. I've got to be married in 2 years and this has to happen in this amount of time, or that's got to happen in this amount of time. It's ridiculous. That's all shit in your head. And here's the thing, regardless who you are. You may have all these expectations of what you want to get done. And if you're really in love with somebody, or you do want to be with this person, you have to understand they have their own way of thinking. So you may want to be married in a year or two. They may want to be married in 5 years. If you're giving them ultimatum, is this the word, right? Ultimatum? Sometimes I screw that word off. That's the worst thing you could ever do. I really honestly believe it. Because again, if you have to force someone to marry you, force them to, force them to have children at a certain amount of time, all you're doing is putting more pressure on someone. And I don't mean this just for men doing it to women or women doing it to men. I'm talking a lot of men do shit too to force women. They want to get married too quickly and a woman feels bad and she's like, oh my God, should I do it? I don't want to lose him, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to get married. We've only known each other 6 months. That's bullshit. Stand up for yourself. Again, have the confidence to say, you know what? I'm not ready, or I'm not sure this is going to last. Or to say, you know what? It sounds like a joke, but do we really need a break? Sometimes you do need to, and I've been in those situations where I dated somebody a while, and then I took a break, and then I said, you know what? And I'm sure maybe the other person felt the same. We're like, wow, that was a relief. Well, and after a while, they're like, oh, she's with somebody, and now I'm with somebody else. It's like, thank God we made that move. Because I think a lot of times we don't really want to acknowledge there's 3.5 billion other people out there. You know what I mean? If you're a man, there's 3.5 billion women out there. Sometimes you don't want to acknowledge that there are a lot of other people that probably are better for you. Now, if you're both in love, I'm not saying to do this. Obviously, you're together. That's wonderful. You grow together, do your thing. But if you have that feeling a lot of times where, wait a minute, I don't know how long it's lasting now, but in 5 years or 10 years, I don't know if I could see myself with this person. And I just met somebody actually I found quite interesting. They're Canadian, and he's actually a Catholic, but he doesn't practice anymore. And then he got married, and she wasn't religious, but then eventually she became a Mormon, which I found really interesting. And they raised their 3 kids as a Mormon, but he's not a Mormon. But they both still love each other. Now, what's amazing about that, I think a lot of times I've always seen, and this is even some of my closest friends and their family members and stuff, one becomes religious, or say 2 people are dating, hypothetically, and neither one are religious. One becomes obsessed with religion and just all of a sudden gets saved or becomes whatever religion he, goes into. He almost forces the other one to join in, or he's got to end it. And I see so many times the other person, men and women, both sides, go do it. And I can just tell a lot of times it's a phony fucking thing. You could tell they're not as happy. Some are, don't get me wrong, some are, but a lot aren't. And then when they have kids, excuse me, now they are the one that was very religious wants to engulf their kid in religion. Or, and I've even seen this, which is really quite interesting. So somebody becomes very religious, converts the other one. So say it's my buddy in California, hypothetically, I have one, became obsessed with religion, then he converts his wife, and the wife, say, had kids already or whatever, and to make a long story short, she becomes religious with the kids, they start, going to church, everything, then he burns out on it. Now she's kind of caught in a place where she's for a couple of years now with the church, with the friends, and she never really was that into it to begin with, but now she's kind of in it. Now what happens? Now he's not into it, he's exhausted from her now, being still in it or being kind of obsessed like he was. So again, they're married and they're fine. But my point being is a lot of times you're never going to be able to control what other people are doing in a relationship. I talk about that a lot in my program. You can't control anything like 3 or 4 feet outside your life from a physical standpoint. And you're not going to control anybody in your life. I got a news flash. Unless you walk around with a gun to their head and telling them what to do 24 hours a day, you control no one. That I could assure you. You may be able to control your wife to a certain degree. Now, I don't know what religion, maybe in different religions and things, but in North America for the most part, and for the average person out there, it's almost impossible to control someone else after a while. Because if you're overbearing, they're just going to resent you for the most part, I think, that I've seen. But back to relationships, sometimes you're just going through a phase, I think, where you just have to acknowledge that I just really am having a fun time with this person right now. And I'm not saying they're a filler. I goof around sometimes and say they're fillers, because I used to call myself a filler. Like I would date different girls, and I knew it'd be very interesting with me with women, to be honest with you, because what would happen with me is I have a lot in common with women, and then I have absolutely nothing in common with them. But when they met me, they thought I had all these things in common, because they'd be like, what do you do for a living? I'd be like, oh, I was in a nightclub business with my father and the vending business, so I was in and out of bars and restaurants. Oh my God, I love bars and restaurants. Oh, of course you do. Who doesn't? And then I went in, made some movies. They're like, oh my God, I love movies. Yeah, who really kind of doesn't love movies, right? Let me get some water here. Hold on. And then I love the fashion industry, so I love modeling. So I wrote a book called The Model Bible, and I'm like, oh, it helps, young people protect themselves. And it helps them break into the modeling industry, and a lot of girls will be like, oh, that's awesome. And I would be also working with my regular job, which I was going to all different malls all over North America, and I still do. And they're like, oh my God, I love malls. And then I'm like, yeah, I like going to the gym. Oh my God, I like fitness too. You could teach me this or that. Before you know it, I like sports too, but I'm not an outdoorsy type of guy. I kind of like nice cars, convertibles, things like that, and which falls again. I love food. Oh, women are like, I love food. I'm like, oh, I mainly only like Italian food. That's my favorite food too. I like Italian food, or I like, pizza, ice cream, gelato. But the truth was, just because we kind of like the same thing After that, I'm brutal. I'm very I'm flaky to a certain degree. I'm the best at times, or I think sometimes the worst, and I understand that about myself. So with my new girlfriend, Rhea, has unbelievable patience. I look at the complications as far as I'm very complicated because I'm very self-centered and selfish, I think, at times. Then at other times, I'm very giving, I'll give you everything. But I'm never in the middle. And either I'm fun or I'm laughing and I'm happy. I'm always, I live like a professional tourist. And then when I get engulfed with what I want to do, I'm like an animal. You have to get out of my way. And I don't have any patience. So I'm almost the type of guy where I have all the patience in the world, but then when I hit the mark, I have absolutely no patience for you whatsoever. I learned just from a maturity level. One thing I really appreciated about her more than anything, and I knew my relationship would last with her, is she knew how to handle me and not bring drama into my relationship and not try to change me. And what was quite interesting about her was I was actually in the middle of writing my book, Wingman, which was a must-have guide to finding the woman of your dreams. And I talk a lot about my past in there and obviously being with different women and doing different things in my life. And I was very scared. You kind of like, should I show her this? But eventually it's going to come out. She actually helped me write it. And I think sometimes she'd be laughing her ass off, and then maybe at other times she'd be like, wow, he did this? I mean, that's really not good. But he's honest about it. And I think seeing her handle that situation where she wasn't trying to change me, change my book, change my way of thinking, I had to learn that from her, and me doing the same to say, wow, I need to be more patient dealing with her, because I expect you to have all the patience in the world when it comes to me and my shit, but I have no patience for you. That's horrible. And even through my ex-wife, who's always been wonderful to me, I think I got caught in a situation where I've said before she was raising 3 kids, not just 2. And I had a lot of growing up to do, and I had to really learn a lot about myself. And back to relationships lasting or not, it takes time to, I think, really evolve. I tell people too, if you don't live with someone before you're married, I would definitely 100% would recommend living with someone. I don't care if it's a sin or not, because you truly don't know someone till I really believe until you live with them. And that doesn't mean thinking, hey, I go on a cruise with her, I kind of know her, or I go to her apartment all the time, or her house, she comes to mine, we're always together. I don't give a I'm talking actually living together, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It's different. It's different. It is not a honeymoon phase after a while. And I get the romance side of things too, saying, hey, no, but that takes the romance, aspect, or I'm religious and all that. If you're going to commit to somebody for the rest of your life, I talk about that in my program, you better understand the more you know and the safer the more you know and the safer you feel with this person, that they are genuine. Because a lot of times when relationships end, that person that you are with can either be very genuine, or the hatred, and I don't understand it, comes out like nobody's business. Sometimes when a relationship ends, and regardless what the situation may be, if you leave or they leave or whatever the case, the hatred, and it's so funny, that fine line between love and hate, and resentment, and jealousy, anger, all those things, they want to make your life miserable. And I don't know if that's a mental illness, but it's a real thing. So again, if you plan on being with somebody and you start to see a lot of these bad tendencies and they're right in front of you and you kind of keep ignoring them, when it comes down to it, right? If you do marry this person, have especially children with this person, you are attached to that person for the most part for the rest of your life. Now, you may not be with that person physically, but your children are going to be a part of both of your lives most likely, because no one's usually going to give up their kids. So you're always, if it goes for parties, graduations, weddings, the future, when you have grandkids, everybody's around everybody. So don't bullshit yourself and say, no, they're only, my kids only go on that side of the family. You don't do that shit. You can't be like, have a wedding, or, say you have grandchildren and they can't have two parties for the baby. You can, but you look like you know what I mean? It's not fair to your kids. But my point being is, if you're in a relationship, again, if it ends, ending sometimes can be the best thing that's ever happened to you for both of you. Sometimes they may not, somebody who breaks up with you a lot of times could be the best thing that ever happened to you. And you don't realize that until you find someone else. And a lot of times, I think I could just speak for myself. There's different types of women. You may be with a woman that you think is cool and everything, but they're kind of always freaking miserable. And the way they handle things could be so different than somebody else in a good or a bad way. You meet somebody and they're taking everything negative. It could be whatever the case may be. Every time you talk to them, they're miserable. They're not living in the same place. They're not making enough money. They get in a car accident, or they're always fighting with their parents or whatever. And then you think that becomes the norm. And it starts to make you miserable, where you leave that relationship and you go with somebody else. You're like, wow, this person has a blast with their parents. When something goes bad, she actually looks at it from a whole different perspective, how to make it better, not make it worse, not talk about, you bring up the past, all these different types of things. But a lot of guys, men and women, you get caught in these relationships where you can't escape them. And I always say a lot of times too, when you start dating other people, when you officially are with somebody, you're going to be I dodged a lot of bullets. You don't realize how many bullets you dodged. I talk about that all the time. A lot of the women you didn't have sex with, and a lot of the women out there, men that you didn't have sex with, you dodged a huge bullet because you don't know what came along with that, right? It's just like a lot of things in life. A lot of people are always complaining, God, I wish I would have done this, or I would have went and did this or did that. You don't know, because say you wanted to always go to Mexico, you might have went there and something could have happened really bad to you. You didn't go. You don't even realize what could have happened there, right? And those situations, because I remember even in high school, some kids jumped in a car. It happened a couple times where spring break, a couple kids got in a car accident, got killed. And, you were going to go with them kids, but you're like, no, I'm not going to go because I know they party or whatever the case may be. Again, those are the type of bullets you dodge, about. But there's things happening in your life when it comes to relationships a lot of times where you can meet a person that can destroy your life, honestly, emotionally, financially, all these things. And you want to protect yourself. But, please pay attention to relationships. They're not all supposed to last forever when it comes to a man and woman. Sometimes, and don't feel bad, don't always think it's you. You may, a lot of women I know are like, what's my problem? These guys, they date me a few times, then they leave, or it lasts a month, or they tell me they're going to call me, they don't call me. I'm like, who gives a shit? You just dodged a bullet. Move on. Keep moving on. That's the best thing that could ever happen to you. If they're ghosting you, if they ghosted you in 2-3 weeks or whatever the case may be, what type of person does that? You don't look at it from that point of view. You look at it like, oh, I'm being rejected. It takes time to find the right person. You got to realize that shit. If you're going to commit to somebody in a relationship, if you plan on spending the rest of your life with or whatever, that's going to take a lot of time. I almost look at it like it's like a degree almost, or it's almost like getting your a doctorate. To me, if you're with somebody, I wouldn't be shocked if somebody waits 5-10 years to even get married, because you really want to see how that person evolves and grows. Are you two growing together? In a year or two, you're always going to kind of have that camaraderie, or whatever you want to call it, that thing where you two are kind of doing the same things when you first meet, because especially if you don't have any kids or anything. So basically what your life really revolves around is going to restaurants, fooling around, hanging out with friends, you know what I mean? It's not until you start having kids where now your life is actually revolving around somebody else's life. That's a whole different thing. But again, taking your time, because like I said, in 2-3 years, you may see all of a sudden they want to change religions, hypothetically, or they go through different phases. Like the first year, they seem like they're all perfect and everything's going great. And then next year they're having emotional breakdowns, or all of a sudden they decide they want to move, or they decide that they want to be single again, or they decide all these, or they start bogging you down with things that you don't want to start doing, or it could be anything. You want to make sure you two have a chemistry in the future together, and I really think the only way you're going to learn how to do that is by taking your time and growing together. Because a lot of times it's like a tree, you kind of, you're going straight forever. Are you going to branch? How do you kind of like keep growing, or do you start branching out? Are you getting further apart as the relationship kind of goes forward, or are you coming closer together? That's what I should say. So I'm going to wrap it up there. But yeah, please don't think every relationship, especially when you're first starting dating, is supposed to last forever. It's unrealistic. Don't force yourself to do that either. Don't bog yourself down with that shit. Don't feel insecure, especially if you're a woman, and say, people are going to look at me as like a slut if I date a bunch of different guys. Who gives a shit what anybody thinks? But then again, girls, if you're going to be on Facebook, Instagram, and shit, constantly taking photos of all different men, yeah, you might get judged, but you're kind of setting yourself up for that. Same with you guys. I talk about it. You don't have to spend a ton of money on dating. I wouldn't date anybody for months and months, even a year. Take your time, figure it out, meet them out, have drinks. Maybe in the future, maybe you want to date here or there. You don't need to spend tons of money on doing that. What you want to do is start learning about these women, their behaviors, their patterns. I don't care. Go on social media. Kind of stalk them a little bit. I don't care what anyone says. Ask a lot of people that know them. Are they good? Are they bad? Because you really got to protect yourself on both sides, right? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. You get a chance, check out my YouTube channel. What am I doing? I'm always posting videos on there regarding fitness. I go inside a bunch of different gyms in North America. I post things regarding fitness. I also do Italian restaurants. What else do I do on there on my YouTube channel? What else do I... Oh, I kind of go to different malls, kind of show you that, and I kind of teach people where to shop for resale, consignment, how to save money doing that as well. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And like I was mentioning, I have a Mastering Self-Confidence program out. It's called MasteringSelfConfidence.com. I sell that online. And if you want to check me out, I'm richcelenza.com. That can kind of link you everywhere to everything I'm doing. And my main thing is I just want to help people. I really do. And I want you to be realistic and just tell the truth. I was actually just at a seminar, and I had a ton of people asking me questions regarding, and they said, Rich, you just tell the truth. I'm not saying I'm more truthful than anybody else, but I'm like, you have to be realistic in your own life and be a person of the times. It is not 1980s, 90s. A lot of men have been programmed to say, hey, I meet someone, I got to take them on a date. I got to take her for steak or lobster. I got to do this. Same with women. If I meet this guy, I can't have sex till the third date, or I can't do this because of that. And if I do this, that. It's all bullshit. If you keep doing that shit and you keep ending up in the same situation, switch it up. It's not working for you. You got to be open-minded in relationships. And if you want to date other people, don't mislead people. A lot of times you may be with a girl, you're kind of dating her, and just have the balls to say, you know what, I want to date other women. Don't be insecure to be like, I want to date other women, but I don't want her to date other men. I get that too, but most likely you're going to get busted. You don't want to lose them either. But if you only want to be with them, say I only want to be with you. And vice versa. But again, don't bog someone down, I believe. And also make them think that just because we're dating for a certain amount of time, we have to be together forever, because that's not always the truth. Also, if people want to go to college, they need to move out of state, let them go after their dreams. If you need to leave, be honest. You don't have to always be like, hey, I have to go here for a job. That doesn't mean you have to leave right now. Let me go there and just start my job. If it works out, you can come. And if I don't like my job, I can come back. Have the balls and confidence to do that. And a lot of people are like, long distance doesn't work. Bullshit. You both love each other, you trust each other, and you want to be with each other. You can make anything work. And remember, that may be a time where you both leave each other for a year, or you sign a lease or whatever, and be like, you know what, I do want to be with this person. Right? That could be kind of, I'm not saying a test, but just remember that shit. All right. That's all I got for you. If you're traveling, safe travels, and take care.